Good morning and welcome to How We Live Online. I'm Christina.
I'm Joanna. Christina, your coffee looks really aesthetic. It's a little former Bon Mami jar.
Yeah, whatever. It's like, I just don't know anything about the French language. Like, that's something that I just completely skipped over. And so I can never say any French words. But yeah, it's that jar. You guys are probably going to hear the ice. I'm really sorry, but I have to have this coffee. It's like all espresso and then a little bit of oat milk. I feel we're recording at 9:42. Like, it's not even that early, but to me, I don't know why. It's like the ass crack of dawn right now. And that's how I feel.
Do you think
our bodies are different?
Yeah. Your body is this way. Do you think when we're old ladies, we can take French lessons and we're rich and we can pay for a French tutor? We can have like a French tutor come to our compound.
I think all we would do is make fun of them.
I know.
Yeah, we could employ some little French man. A little man. Timothée Chalamet.
Yeah, that's all he'll be good for.
By then, yeah.
Yeah.
Coming to some like rural Virginia compound full of old ladies.
Yes.
We're like, by then we have a Southern accent somehow.
Yeah.
And we're like, Timmy, get me my Bon Mammon. Raspberry jam.
And then the second half can be like acting lessons.
And we would pay him in fresh vegetables from your garden.
Yeah. And rides on Annalise's donkeys.
Our friend Annalise is a vet, except not yet, but like basically she's a vet. And she's not allowed. She and her boyfriend compromised on what kind of giant animal they'll have, and instead of horses, it's donkeys.
I'm so excited.
We're all excited for. That's the intro for today. I don't know. My brain is just everywhere. You should go first.
I should go first.
The episode while I drink this coffee. Yeah.
I'll introduce the episode. The topic today is generally food. We have several things we want to discuss in the line of food. I'll ask Christina which of my things we should talk about first. Should we talk about viral foods first or mukbangs?
I think we should talk about viral foods first. I'm intrigued.
We wanted to talk about viral foods this week online. A lot of foods go viral, and often we see restaurants go viral for like a really interesting thing they make, and then it sells out. But then the other thing that happens too is like a recipe goes viral. And I think we were really interested in when there's like a rush on ingredients for a specific recipe and everyone's trying to make it. And literally the grocery stores are all sold out of the ingredients. So we have a little deep dive on that this week. So I read this 2021 article in Eater by Stephanie Gans. Sidebar, do you remember that, like, as soon as I saw this name, I had a flashback to Webkinz, because the company who made Webkinz is called Gans.
No.
So I was like, Stephanie Gans, heiress Webkinz, like.
I mean, probably.
Yeah. So, and then that made me think we should definitely do an episode on Webkinz.
Webkinz? I only had one.
Yeah, but like traversing like the physical to the online, like
yeah, we could do a Webkinz epi.
Yeah, a whole new world.
You'll have more to say about it.
What if we invite for our eventual video game episode, what if we invite like a hardcore gamer, but instead the whole time we just ask them about
Webkinz. So when you had Webkinz,
Yeah.
Can you talk
Like,
to us about, I don't know, the things you collect? Like, I don't even know. I can't even make jokes about Webkins. I don't know enough
like
about.
in Cash Cow.
Yeah.
So like when you spin the wheel of wow.
Tell me, what are you thinking? Like, what's going on in your head? And when you're streaming that, how do you like to narrate what you're doing?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can get a Webkin streamer.
But like in Call of Duty, like, you know, when you go to your house, like how do you like where do you buy the furniture? Like
Yeah.
how many puffles can your car have in
GTA?
GTA?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Because it's like you could spend the extra coins on getting a sidecar, but
Yeah.
that makes everything kind of out of balance when you're like trying to hit strippers on the street, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Viral foods. Stephanie Gans opens the article with a quote. So she talks about on her recent trip to her local Asian supermarket there. In a refrigerated display between the puffed tofu and quail eggs gaped a hole where the Kewpie mayo would usually be found. Where where were my beloved plastic wrap bottles with the eponymous little cherub? I wondered in a mild panic. When I found the shopkeeper and asked him where the Kewpie was, he threw his hands up in disgust. Sold out. TikTok, he yelled before shuffling away. So if you remember, so this was in 2021. In the fall of 2021, Emily Mariko posted a TikTok. She's a food blogger. She posted this TikTok of her, you know, favorite weeknight recipe or lunch of the week. And essentially it was, you know, pre-cooked salmon. She smashed that up. She topped it with some leftover rice and put an ice cube on top of it. Put it in the microwave, microwaved it up. And then she took this freshly steamed concoction out of the microwave, put in some soy sauce, sriracha, and the Kewpie mayo, added half an avocado, mixed the whole thing together, and ate it with some seaweed, blew people's minds. And this caused, you know, shortages of Kewpie mayo everywhere. Do you remember hearing about this recipe, Christina?
Yes, because of Alexis.
Right.
Alexis, I think, made it.
I think she did.
And yeah. And the thing about the Emily Mariko videos is that like she was silent and the kitchen is like very giant and clean and white. And it's just like all these like sharp cuts to the next thing she's putting on. Like you can hear like the bowl sliding and the fork, or I don't know, all the utensils making their noises and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then she just takes a bite at the end, like she doesn't talk. And I feel like that style was also started to get imitated too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I never tried it. Sounds good. I mean, doesn't sound like that could be bad.
Yeah, I don't eat salmon, but yeah, I mean, it's one of these things where it's like such a normal recipe that like and everyone's like, oh my God. Do you have any other like when you think of like recipes that have gone viral, do you have any that you think of particularly?
Just when I think of viral foods, I just think of avocado toast. That's kind of it.
That's also what I thought. I have the first one that I know you made, feta pasta.
Oh yeah, that's good. I still make that.
Really?
Yeah, it's really good. Joanna's vegan, so she doesn't eat cheese.
Yeah, I've never had that. But I do remember that like because I think that must have gone viral in 2020, like because I remember you trying to make it and there was no feta in the grocery stores. Yeah. Do you remember that?
No, I don't.
Yeah.
Literally, the pandemic. I'm sorry, but like that time period is not in my head.
Yeah.
blocked that shit out. But also, I am remembering, shout out Alexis. We'll probably talk about her a lot this episode because Alexis likes to make food and we hang out with her a lot. I made that recipe with Alexis because I was living with her at the time. And then also like in like quarantine 2020, she and I made like whipped coffee.
Yes.
With
that's
like
on my list.
What was it made of? It was like
Dalgona coffee. It's instant coffee.
yeah,
Yeah.
that you make into like a whipped cream. That shit was good. It
Yeah.
was good. I have a weird picture of it on my Instagram, in fact.
People like,
It looks like peanut butter
yeah.
in a jar.
For that one in particular, I think people, because it was going viral right at the same time as the beginning of the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
So people have like terrible associations with Dalgona coffee. They're like, even if I really like the taste of it, like I simply can't.
We only made it once. I feel like if we had made it like a lot, multiple times, and then I got used to it. Yeah, here.
Oh.
Okay. I posted this picture of the whipped coffee in these giant jars. We made the whipped coffee with milk, with oat milk. And then I said, Alexis and I had to try it. Sorry, it's delicious. Next time we're adding a secret ingredient. I don't know what that would have been. And then all of our friends commented, what is this? What is this? Tell us what it is. Because it's such a weird picture. Oh, well.
Okay, so a few other examples I have of viral recipes or foods. So there was the TikTok of the guy sipping an orange spray brand raspberry juice, I think it was, but orange spray brand.
Yeah, it was some red juice that was either like cran raspberry or like something like that. I don't know.
Yes.
Listening to Dreams.
Yes. Dreams. So Dreams goes viral from this TikTok. Orange spray goes viral. Perhaps
Ocean spray. Ocean
back.
spray.
Ocean spray. Is that what I'm saying?
You said orange spray.
Oh, yeah, because that's what's in my notes.
Huh?
My notes say orange spray.
Oh, it's ocean spray.
Yeah, ocean spray. Maybe it was orange raspberry. Maybe that's what I was trying to write.
Maybe.
Okay, yeah. Orange spray. That's what Christina at one point sprayed at Afro because cats don't like the smell of orange. I don't know because I'm not a cat owner myself.
What are you talking about?
Nothing. You'll hear about it later.
Are you talking about my cat?
No.
She didn't even do anything.
I did not say anything about her.
Get her tail.
Afro's nickname could be Orange Spray.
It really could.
Or more like Orange Spay.
So true.
I am really, few other examples. Gigi Hadid's vodka pasta.
I made that too.
Yeah. So you are into
I'll make the pasta ones. Yeah.
Interestingly, the other example I also thought of was the other Hadid, Bella, had a sandwich go viral. Just like a totally normal sandwich that people just like became obsessed with. It had like several meats and then like maybe cabbage or like some kind of crunchy veg and then like vinegar. And I'm sure it tasted really good. But people were just like absolutely ravenous for these things.
If I eat the Bella Hadid sandwich, will I look like Bella Hadid?
Yeah. So people have caught on to like that the fact that these recipes that go viral are often like very normal.
Yeah.
So in the Michigan Daily, Sarah Rahman writes, the food is usually cooked rather than bought in these viral recipes recently. So it's like a more recent trend of viral recipes. And they're characterized by the fact that they can be made by anyone, including younger people. And they usually include simple, accessible ingredients and don't require a lot of technique, right? So anyone can like chop some stuff up and put it in a sandwich. So you look at the minute-long video and you think, I can do that.
I was gonna say, like, they go viral, like simple things go viral because people can do them.
Right. So then I wanted to get into just a little bit, like this isn't going to be like a whole discussion of the supply chain because I'm not that interested in supply chains, but I do think that the fact that like when the bounds of the internet cross into real life, right, in the form of anything, including like supply chain shock, I just think it's really interesting. So actually in this Eater article, shout out William and Mary, because a professor from the Raymond A. Mason School of Business has talked about the relationship between TikTok and supply chains, which is really interesting. Basically, like you were saying at the beginning of the episode, Christina, like actually the pandemic has a lot to do with the way this is manifesting right now, because as we know, overall, the pandemic messed up supply chains a lot, not even just with the things that we can grab onto like toilet paper or hand sanitizer, right? We probably all experienced not being able to find those things in the store. But, you know, the fact that the Kewpie mayo is also connected in a weird way to the weirdness of the pandemic and supply chains. An interesting part of this article was that Gans tried to talk to some grocery store chains about supply shortages. And it's something that they have to be kind of like PR about. They can't really like acknowledge the fact that like they you know, have supply issues or the supply chain is a problem, which I think is really interesting. Like I just hadn't thought about that it would be such a touchy subject. Because yeah, like Gans says, they contacted a half dozen grocery store chains and none would talk about this. People aren't sure if virality in a recipe leads to a lasting effect in the popularity of the food. But the Ocean Spray example, so there was an 11% sales growth in the one flavor cran raspberry, and then 3 to 4% growth for the entire Ocean Spray franchise from that. So Ocean Spray felt like they saw a lot of benefit from the virality. And then the last thing I'll say about this, which I thought was really interesting, are the ways that grocery store chains are trying to get ahead of the trends to help predict interest of consumers. One way that they're doing this is by using Wi-Fi enabled cameras and collecting real-time data of people's shopping habits in the stores. So Walmart has been doing that, and they cite this example that Walmart was able to increase their stocking efficiency in the meat department by 90% by spying on people while they're grocery shopping.
This is interesting you say this about Walmart. I was just in Florida helping my grandma move into her house. So I had to go to Walmart like 45 fucking times in 4 days. And it was a super Walmart, like the giant ass Walmart. And I noticed, because I had been there multiple times, they play different kinds of music in the grocery versus the like home and like normal shopping, which I thought was interesting. And I was like, is it because this fucking place is so big? Probably not, because because Walmart, I'm sure, like knows the psychology behind like what kind of music that they're playing in each section. And then like I noticed that when you walk from like the very end of the store was all like home improvement, like tools, boring lighting stuff, like light bulbs and shit. And then to get to the grocery store, you have to pass like electronics and clothing, and the pathway, they like really the perimeter of the pathway, they put like the best stuff like the giantest TVs and the cutest shirts and stuff. And I was like walking with my mom and I got distracted by something in the clothing section and I was like, this is purposeful. I know this is purposeful. They're trying to distract me and they're also like creating this maze for me to have to go through. So I think that like it would be fun to spend more time thinking, like trying to dig into like the psychology behind like giant stores like that creating their spaces.
Yeah,
for another time. But and there were cameras in Walmart and I was like, I guess this is for theft, but they were just watching me. I wonder what was so like what I'm just curious, like what were people buying in the meat department versus what they were stocking before?
Yeah,
You
I
know?
don't know. And yeah, I'm not sure how like videos, like what's the delay on purchasing, like purchase data that is so significant as opposed to like video of people taking items. Like, I guess they're talking about like literally while people are shopping in the store, not like big picture, we don't have enough Kewpie mayo, but like we need to be putting out new bottles of Kewpie mayo every 10 minutes instead of every 30 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
There were like people restocking. There had to have been in the grocery section of this giant Walmart. Like every other aisle had at least one person restocking. And then when I was there at like late night, there was like 10 people restocking in that section. And then I was like, damn, Walmart must employ so many people.
Yeah.
So crazy.
Yeah. If you've ever made a viral recipe or we forgot any, which I'm sure we did, text us and we will remember it with you because there are just so many.
There are truly so many. All right, so something that I wanted to talk about more in the personal experience department is MyFitnessPal and generally not fitness tracking, but like food tracking. And we talked about the quantified self movement in the first episode and how people use their Apple Watches and such to dataify their life and make decisions based off of that data. So another way to do that is people, count calories and put that into their apps and la la la. MyFitnessPal, I feel like every time I bring up, and this is not often, I'm not trying to like hurt people all the time by bringing up MyFitnessPal, but I feel like if I ever bring it up, someone in the room was like, oh my God, that was like the darkest time of my life. And I just think it's really interesting. So I was like watching all these videos about how to best use it because I had MyFitnessPal in high school and I don't know why. I had MyFitnessPal and I would log my food. Already in high school, I was not eating enough food. Like it didn't really make any sense for me to have this thing. And I was doing it with the goal to like lose weight. Probably not the best health goal for me at the time. And I remember like logging an apple. And when I think about logging an apple right now, that to me is stupid. Like eating an apple is like eating air. And like I didn't do anything useful with that information. I just like put in like how you put in your weight and then your goal weight and then like it gives you an output of like calories you're supposed to eat. And it's always like 1100. Like it's literally insane. And I obviously was like 15 and I didn't know anything about any of that. And so I would like log my food and then be hungry and then be like, okay, well, I'm not fucking doing this anymore. Like, I'm not gonna go by the rules of my app because it doesn't make any sense because I will be very hungry. So then it was just like this terrible cycle of like, oh no, I'm like not doing it enough and I'm doing it la 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 la. You can imagine, right? Cut to now. I'm like, remember MyFitnessPal? That was crazy. And then I saw someone post that I went to high school with on her Instagram story, like, oh, I just logged back into MyFitnessPal and look at this. And she had logged like the Bacardi shots she had taken.
Yeah.
That's so funny. Like, why? Like, imagine being out, right? And you're like having so much fun with your friends, and then you're like, oh, give me a second. And then you like pull out MyFitnessPal and you're like 1.5 ounces of Svedka or something. I don't know. It's just like very dark to me. And anyway, seeing her post that, I was like, oh, let me go into this rabbit hole. So what I found out is that someone fucking hacked my MyFitnessPal, and I can't get into it. But I was looking through my email to see like if I could get any of the information from it, like from like weekly email shit or whatever. Nothing. It just sent me stupid blogs like every fucking day for the past like 6 years. But I did have one message from like a friend who had liked that I did a streak of like logging for 7 days in a row. It was like la la la, liked your 7-day streak of logging your food or whatever. And I was like, this was a social media app too. Like people are watching you log your food, and it's just not the best. So then I was like, let me go on TikTok, because I'm sure there are people on TikTok talking about this. There's like the gym bros who are like, you have to use MyFitnessPal to track your macros and make sure that you're eating enough protein, and you can use the barcode app or like the barcode scanning thing. So like you can just scan the food that you are eating. But now apparently that's with premium, so people are really mad. Whatever. And then like all these nutritionists who were women being like, hey, if you have a goal to lose weight, like that's fine, but this is probably not the best way to do it. Like the thing about MyFitnessPal, when you use MyFitnessPal, it doesn't create the best output. Like it severely underestimates the amount of calories that you need in a day. And you also have to remember that your body is changing. Like your body is in a different status every day. So like, I don't know, 1,800 calories one day is not going to be enough or for you the next day, depending on like, you know, all these other factors or whatever. And then they were also saying that you just have to input your own deficit. If you want to go into a deficit, like you can't let it compute it for you. And food companies with their nutrition labels or whatever are allowed to have like a 20% margin of error.
Right.
Did you know that?
Yes. Well,
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Well, I told you about that the other day. That like I didn't know it was 20%, but I knew that they're allowed to be wrong. And because it's science, like it's not exactly right, the calorie burn thing.
So there's like this 20% margin of error. So something that says it's 50 calories could actually be way less or way more. And then you're logging it as 50 calories and you're still hungry or whatever, because it actually ended up being like 40 or whatever. So basically it's not the best way to be looking at any of your stuff. And when you go onto the app, it like, you can like set it to remember some of your meals and stuff, and then you just like keep inputting it. But I feel like when you do that, you get like caught in upset. Like I feel like when I was doing it and I would like find something that gave me the right amount of everything, then I'd be like, oh, I have to eat this every day. And I don't know. I just don't react well to that kind of pressure. And
I have a few thoughts I'll bounce off you. So yeah, well, one thing, and this is also a thing with meal prepping, right, is that people fixate on a certain aspect of the meals they've prepped, right? So for example, like you're mentioning the calorie count, but really something that's really important too is varying the nutrients you're getting. So like literally it is not good for you to eat the same meals every day. You'd have to be eating like a really specific combination of foods to be like covering your nutrients, because nutrition isn't like something that resets every day. Like you said, that your needs are different every day. Like, you know, nutrition happens over a week. You collect a certain amount of nutrients over a month, like over a year. And I think that the interface of MyFitnessPal, a lot like how we talked about Apple Health, just like doesn't do a good job of guiding us to think about nutrition in that way, especially when nutrition education is so poor in this country, like even for health professionals. Nutrition isn't really taught, and a lot of health professionals don't know how to talk about it or aren't really qualified to give great nutrition advice. And so, yeah, I think some of it, like as a maker of tools, I try not to like villainize MyFitnessPal, but I do think that they like probably aren't doing enough. Like they could be making a much better tool for the purpose. Like, for example, how you talked about the social media aspect. I'm sure that people whose goal is weight loss, like having a community to help them stay accountable to that goal is probably something that really helps. But like the social media surveillance comparison aspect probably isn't helpful. And I'm sure that there's a way to like make it work in a healthy way for more people. But I think you're right that like MyFitnessPal isn't doing that right now.
There's also this app, because I was looking at comparing them. There's also this app called Noom, which is $70 a month or something insane. And have you heard of it?
Yes.
And it makes you take all these quizzes. Like I was looking at it was either like a Sports Illustrated or like Men's Health article. So like the readers are people who have like a different like food vocabulary than me. It's like mostly men. So the article was about like comparing it was clearly like paid for by MyFitnessPal and then comparing it to all these different apps. But essentially the article was saying like MyFitnessPal is the best, simplest one, and like was really like valuing MyFitnessPal for its simplicity and just like plugging in what you need and getting an output. And then they started talking about Noom and how like if you are a person who wants to look more at food behavior and like the psychology behind why you're eating that way, Noom is a good thing for you to get, but it's really expensive. And also like it takes so much more time, basically is what it said, which I think is a funny like con. Like they were saying it like it's a con, like you have to spend so much more time on this app to get it to do what you want it to do, which I think is probably for your health better.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just depends on, I guess, what your expectations are and what you're looking for. But I'm not interested in using any of these apps, and I probably won't want to do it ever. But I think I would value something that I have to like take a quiz and then like just log. I'm guessing like the way that works, or the way that I think it would make the most sense for a fitness app to work really is like it would give you a quiz about like your lifestyle and then maybe just like prompt you to log your food for a week without any goals and just see like how you eat and what you do in a day.
Right.
But health is so confusing because I can have an app that's just for my food, and then another app that's just for my working out, and then another app that's for like, just like the regular health app. And it's like having 1,000 doctors who don't talk to each other,
Yeah. The other thing with MyFitnessPal is like, I personally, even if, it's great to find success in achieving your goals, but like, I think the investment of like logging something on your phone every day is kind of a lot. Like people can't even like take their medicine every day, which like isn't their fault, right? It's just like really hard to adopt these behaviors. And so like anything that kind of relies on like you to input something, I don't think like has long-term success, which is why something like Noom could be more interesting for people who are like looking for behavior change, because the like educational aspects might be more valuable or just as valuable as like, logging your eating patterns, because I just feel like it's not sustainable to like expect yourself to like, maintain something because you input it into MyFitnessPal every day. Like, to me, that seems like a tough life.
Yeah.
Yeah. The last thing I'll just say about MyFitnessPal, because as a data person, this is really important to me. So I think you mentioned that MyFitnessPal locked some features behind premium, specifically the barcode scanner thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I've mentioned this before on the pod, but I can't say it enough. MyFitnessPal is all user generated data. Users have input these foods into a database that other users can use. And then MyFitnessPal put it behind a paywall. They did not make that data. The whole, like, the interface is one thing. Like, people use that for the database, and like making it a tool that is behind a paywall is just like, I don't know. I hate that so much. I feel like data ownership needs to go into the hands of the people who create it, because like, I don't think it's fair that this business could profit so much off of the input of users and then put the users' data behind a paywall. Like, to me, that's really not fair. But que sera, sera.
Que sera, sera.
Yeah. I'll talk about mukbang really quickly. Thank you, Christina, for giving us a personal experience. I will also give a little bit of a personal experience. So recently I've had a kind of fascination with mukbang content. I don't watch mukbangs per se, but I do watch videos of people eating, like in a vlog or reviewing food. And I feel like I'm particularly aware of them at the moment. And I also have been recently aware of how watching people eat makes me hungry. So I just thought it would be an interesting thing to look into. So I read this really great article, which I would totally recommend if anyone else is just kind of interested in this. Like, it's a really easy to read scientific article that goes over the literature in mukbangs, and I just found it really interesting. So I'll talk about that briefly, but it's by Kierkegaard and al, or et al. In Latin, that means and others.
Oh.
Et alium. And it's in the International Journal of Mental Health and Addiction, and it's called The Psychology of Mukbang Watching. So if you don't know, mukbang is a popular type of content in South Korea, and essentially it's shows about people eating or videos about people eating. And often it's large quantities of food, and often it's fast food, but generally, I think of mukbang as like, or, just like the videos of people eating. There are obviously connections between those two things. Mukbang is like an extreme, but we can probably learn a little bit just generally about videos of people eating and the psychology of that from studying mukbang. So there's also often a component of interaction with viewers in mukbang. So it will be a stream and, there's a chat going on. So in this study, they were specifically looking at the reasons why people watch mukbang and then positive and negative consequences of that. So I'll just talk about a few of them, but a lot of these resonated with me. And so I thought it was really interesting. So one of the most noted aspects of why people watch mukbang is for a social interaction, right? This counteracts loneliness and isolation, which I really agree with. Like, so I recently was living alone. I don't live alone anymore. But, for an entire year, I lived in an apartment by myself. And I think somehow I started just, passively to my consciousness consuming more mukbang style content to kind of like have the feeling of eating with someone, even though I was just eating by myself. And this is a noted pattern, in Western culture and in South Korea, which is, becoming increasingly westernized. This pattern of younger and younger people who might have, years before been living longer with their families, starting to live by themselves sooner, is creating this social isolation, which drives a lot of people to consume this kind of content.
That is crazy town, but also makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And I feel like the way that I like think about mukbang is that it's like food ASMR.
That's on here.
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah. So people enjoy eating sounds such as slurping and chewing. Or, as you mentioned earlier, with the Emily Mariko, the sounds of preparing, right? The cleaning dishes. That's something that the article noted that people, reasons why people watch mukbang. There's also a few more sinister reasons. There is the reason for, the concept of food porn, right? So, which is kind of both attractive food, but then also attractive people eating food. Some of these people eating, particularly women, get fetishized for their mukbang content, which I can't get into all of that right now. But if you're interested, I would point you to the article.
Have you seen those videos of hot women cooking and they're making like the most disgusting giant lasagna?
Oh, yes. I can't talk about, like, I feel like I'm conflating two things. Like, one, videos of hot women, but then two, like the videos of people making insane amounts of food, like on their kitchen counter.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is clearly food porn.
Yes.
They're like really getting their hand, like they're not using any tools. They're like putting their hands all in the meat and stuff. It's fucking nasty.
Yeah. Also, like, it's really wasteful. Like, some of these are just so weird. And I'm like, why is that something you make? And why is that something that people watch? Like,
and it's like playing with food. Like, I was going to talk a little bit about bento boxes, but I don't have much to say other than like, that's clearly like just for aesthetic purposes. And it's literally like watching someone playing with food.
Yeah. Another interesting thing about the mukbang. So people often watch this to kind of like escape from their reality, both like, you're kind of connected to the social isolation, but maybe you're observing someone eating foods that aren't like what you normally eat, which I agree with. Like, for some reason recently I get served so much content of like weird roots or like ingredients that I have never seen and like things I will never make. But like, I'm so fascinated by it. So I agree with that. And then finally, there's also this idea of vicarious eating. So people watch mukbang to have the experience of eating through watching people eating, often because they're on diets. And some viewers say that, they feel satiety when they watch people eat, which is kind of opposite to my experience, right? That like, I just feel hungrier. But yeah, so some people, it helps them stick to their diet, which, yeah. There were a few noted consequences in the article. Studies have pointed out that individuals who watch more mukbang content are kind of become desensitized to like larger portions. So like I mentioned, that's often a feature of mukbang is like not just large portions, but like, what's the word?
Enormous.
Just like
it's like family style. It's like a banquet table full of food always,
Yeah, it's like, comically large. Exactly like you said. It's like for multiple people. So this can, just mess with your brain about what you think is like a normal portion, and kind of get into like the social comparison and mimicry back in, like the chimp area of your brain. It can also affect like your food selection. So like I mentioned, a lot of time mukbangs feature fast food or junk food. So it can make people consume more of those things. Another thing that some studies noted was that it affects viewers' table manners, because mukbangers usually have poor table manners. And like we mentioned, like the slurping, like the sloshing of food, which is just kind of interesting. And then finally, one that I thought was really interesting was this idea of a warped perception of the relationship between food consumption and thinness. Because, like we mentioned, a lot of mukbangers are attractive women who are consuming these like huge amounts of food, but yet they stay very thin and slim, because
like Gilmore
like
Girls.
yes, like the Gilmore Girls, exactly. It's just this content that like gives us a warped perception of what this person's diet is like. And it's important to know that diet, not diet like dieting, but like your diet is very different than a meal, right? It's something we can all stand to know more of, right? That like one meal does not make or break our diet. And the same is true for mukbangers. So obviously they're not eating like that all the time, but the way that the content is framed often gives that false narrative, which can affect our perceptions as viewers. So overall, I thought this was a really interesting article. And like I said, I would recommend it. I think this is to say, like, if you love mukbang content, especially for those like social reasons, right? I think it could be something that's helpful, but we also probably just have to keep in mind like some of the ways that consuming this content of people consuming can affect us in ways that might be somewhat unhealthy.
There's so much online, It's like there's mukbang, there's like freaky macro guys with their logging, their protein, their like little chicken strips and shit. I don't know. They're so like, it's so crazy how like the internet is just a way to connect so many people. And then this is what happens. Like no one could have predicted that like when the internet was invented, then years and years later, there would be a pandemic, and then TikTok is like connecting people even more, and then things are going viral, and then we can't buy the sauce that we want, and then like everyone's on some mukbang Discord watching somebody eat like insane amounts of fried food, like so weird. But also like when you get to the I like loneliness or like connectiveness of it, like it starts to make a lot of sense. And that's for the mukbang thing. For the MyFitnessPal thing, we just want to optimize ourselves like so bad, and there's, unless you make it your full-time job, it's like not. And also in this one sphere of your life, like people who are really good at spending all this time logging their fitness or whatever and their food are probably like lacking in other areas of their life because there's only so much time in your day, I don't know.
Yeah.
And food is so like, I mean, just obviously so just a part of our physical selves. So it's so strange to see the translation from like these internet fads or trends or communities and how they like actually affect our bodies, what they look like, how they function, our digestion. I don't know. Weird.
Yeah. It's really funny to me that like mankind, womankind, us kind built the internet, which is like such a fancy marvel of technology, and yet so much of it is food, like our most basic need.
And sex, yeah.
Yeah, food and sex.
And then
which is like, wow, like how sophisticated are we really? What do we need?
It's like, what do you spend the most time looking at online? Like probably like ASMR of a girl like brushing my hair. Probably that. Embarrassing. But we're just little animals. There's nothing to say.
We are.
Little animals, big brains.
Yeah. Also, I'll say, like, for most of us, our bodies are so good. Our bodies are so good, most of us. And, like, I think how we talk about a lot on the show, like, you know, the tools can be useful, but also don't discount how useful your body can be in guiding you to where you need to be. Like, that's what your body is built for.
Yeah, you saying this is just reminding me of my once a month hamburger.
Yeah.
I like desperately crave a hamburger once a month before my period. And it's like so good. And then any other time, I would be disgusted by eating a hamburger. I'm due for one soon.
That's a great example.
Yep. Or like, what else do I crave sometimes? Oh, sometimes I didn't like eat cheese for a few days. Like I eat cheese like every day. And I didn't eat cheese for a little bit. I think I wasn't here or something. And then I came home and I like had to buy a block of cheese and I ate so much cheese and like olives and I was like, finally, I'm okay. I don't know. I just needed it.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Listen to your cheese brain, night cheese, have your cheese, and
work on your night cheese.
Yeah, work on your night cheese. We learned a lot today. I learned a lot from Joanna.
Yeah, this is a fun episode.
Yeah, it was a fun episode. Thank you, Joanna.
Thank you, Christina. Don't discount what you did.
I know. I like didn't. Guys, it's literally 5 a.m. Joanna made me wake up at 5 or even because we're wrapping at 5 a.m.
Yeah, I just set your clocks to make you think it's 10.
10:40.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us, everybody. Love you. Talk to you soon. And yeah, bye.